Namaskar. Welcome to Prakash on Basics. I'm Prakash Zog, and we've been talking of Darshans, that is Indian philosophy. Darshans are a bit difficult to digest. So, henceforth, I'll try and break them down into slightly smaller bits. Um, Also, I'll repeat some of the previous aspects that I've been talking of. That's a that's one of the techniques that is known as reinforcement. Also, it'll prevent you from going back and looking up as to what I'm talking about. So we'll try and do that to simplify things a little bit, as long as I'm talking on darshans. Mm. Last time we looked into how Kumaril Bhatt used Poorva Mimansa to re-establish the dominance of Sanatan Dharma to the forefront. Let us now try and look into the basics of what Poorva Mimansa itself is. Let me remind you, Mimamsa is to critically analyze and interpret information uh, in order to make things a lot more clearer, easy to understand and digest. Uh, this Mimamsa aspect, uh, as darshan, consists of two parts. They are commonly referred to as the Purva Mimamsa and the Uttar Mimamsa. Their development as a very strong darshan is of a much later period, the time of around 700 AD and so forth. But the original concepts have been proposed long, long before. Um, so, as a philosophy of a very high repute, it's of a later period. Purva actually means prior, and Uttar is later. There are other meanings also. Purva means the direction of the sunrise, and Uttar is the north, which is the upper part of the world as we know of. But that's not how they were looked at when the words were formulated and used for darshan. There were different people, different thinkers, and based on what they felt to be more important in Vedas, led to the development of two different aspects of Mimamsa, the Purva Mimamsa and the Uttar Mimamsa. Both of them used Ved as their base, but the Purva Mimamsa deals with Karma Kand or the rituals as the initial part. So, Purva, the initial one, as its stronghold and its basis for everything. While the Uttar Mimamsa uses Jnana Kand, that is the Upanishads, as their base, while the Purva Mimamsa uses the Brahmana texts, the part of Vedas that I talked of, as their basis. Mm, So, Purva is associated with the initial part, the Karma Kanda, and specifically, more importantly, the Brahmana part of the Vedas, while Uttara Mimamsa deals more with the Jnana Kanda, and specifically in that, the area associated with the Upanishads. So that's the basic distinction between the two of them. Um, Uttar Mimamsa is also known as Vedanta, and that's something that we will talk of not today, but maybe much later after we've covered some more basics. Uh, the Purva Mimamsa itself has three defining names that are also given to it. They are based on the objectives of the Purva Mimamsa itself. It is also known as Yajna Vidya, the knowledge or skills associated with the yajnas or the sacrifices. Um, but they have also gone ahead and given new meaning to the concept of yajna itself. And that's something that we need to discuss because that's more important from today's point of view. Uh, They are also known as Karma Mimamsa, the logic or understanding of the actions, karma. For that is the prime objective on which uh, the Purva Mimamsa is based. Uh, of course, this karma is to be Veda Vihita, that is approved and as mentioned in the Vedas. Good, proper actions always. That's what it really boils down to. And then it's also known as Dharma Mimamsa, the analysis of Dharma, the ideal behavior that we talked of long back, that is specified in the Vedas, as explained in the Vedas, and as expected out of the Vedas. As I told you, Purva Mimamsa basically deals with the interpretation of the Brahmana section of the Vedas. The way Dharma is followed um, by performing a variety of karmas or actions as per the Veda. So both are linked together. Naturally, its core mantra is Athato Dharma Jidnyasa. And that's the statement that comes from their prime text, which is proposed by Jaimini. So, Athato Dharma Jidnyasa means the interpret, and this is how Dharma is to be interpreted, is what it boils down to. The other one is Athato Brahma Jidnyasa, expressed by Badarayana, and that's a different level or a different part altogether. So, Jaimini's Purva Mimamsa philosophy and Badarayan's Uttar Mimamsa philosophy have different foundations themselves. What to lay stress on? Naturally, their later commentators and interpreters and their followers, Shishyas as they are known as, went ahead along two different tracks altogether and resulted into these two different forms of philosophies. Jaimini's Mimamsa Sutra was commented upon at first by Shabara, and it resulted into what is known as Shabara Bhashya. And then by Kumaril Bhatta, whom we talked of some time back, and Prabhakar Mishra, his student, forming what are known as opinions, and they are referred to as the Bhattamat because of Kumaril Bhatta, and Gurumat because Prabhakar by his student was treated as Guru, and so it is known as Gurumat. There's one more, as I mentioned long back. So that is the core of what Purva Mimamsa texts are. The details I'll come to a little later. Um, why all this? Why this Purva Mimamsa? Why this Mimamsa in the first place? The Vedas, as I told you, is extremely large set of Shruti mantras and so many other factors, close to about 15,000, 16,000, as we mentioned long back. And then four of them, again, their own Brahman sections. And in each of them, certain rituals and vidhis, as they are known as, and yajnas are explained, and how to perform them is given. And every time this is done, a particular method is specified. The Vedic Rishis and their followers also compiled, as we talked of long back, the Vedangas, which involve specific text as to how to handle, study, and understand the Vedas themselves. The Vedangas were already there. But what the Vedangas actually did was to use every individual situation, talk of what it says, and this is what it means, and this is how it is to be done. And that's what was specified. But the trouble is, the same ritual explained in different parts of different Brahmana sutras in different places in different Vedas is explained in slightly different manner. And that leads to a bit of uncertainty because every Veda had its own followers. And a Ved was to be performed by a combination of four or five of the rishis from different Ved followings. So naturally, there was an uncertainty, there was a bit of confusion. So interpreting the words and the sentences correctly is of prime importance according to the Purva Mimamsa. As I said, the Shrauta Sutras gave the meanings and methods of the rituals of the Karma Kanda. But there is an ambiguity. And so exact verbal interpretation to eliminate all possible doubts to establish the correct methodology was essential. The Purva Mimamsa brought about uniformity and gave exact interpretations and correlated all the information. So it was a more logical, a more scientific approach. And that is the reason it is called as a darshan, a philosophy to understand how the Vedas actually function as far as the rituals and the yajnas and the karma kanda and its interpretations go about. It discusses in detail the word meanings, the syntax, the word sequences, and the sentence structures also. It not only links words to objects, but even to gods themselves. Uh, it is actually words that we use to interpret the characteristics and qualities of objects of everything that is around us. And at that time, including the gods themselves. Um, the instant I say the word Indra, it conveys a specific meaning and a specific deity. And he is expected to have certain specific properties. If I say uh, Rudra and I then replace it by Shiva, then there is a slight difference. And just hearing the word even once gives me a clear picture of what I am expecting or what is it that I am praying to or what am I talking about. Purva Mimamsa says these words are the ones that truly give meaning to the deities themselves. And that's true even in case of normal words. When I talk of words like mother or river or storm or death, the instant I utter these words, it gives me a clear picture of the understanding of what that word represents completely, provided I have the necessary knowledge naturally. Um, so, according to Purva Mimamsa, the Vedas and every word in them is an ultimate reality. They are the basis of everything. So, naturally, their meanings are also permanent and everlasting. And it is these that must be understood exactly by everyone. Dharma, the ideal behavior, must therefore be as per the Vedic standards as specified in the Vedas. And that is why the base sentence, the prime one, Athato Dharma Jidnyasa, as specified by Gemini then. And karma is to be dharma based. So, karma and its proper interpretation takes prime importance in Purva Mimamsa. The Purva Mimamsakas initially lay stress on the yajna related karma. But later on, the later thinkers around 700 AD and so forth, and much later also, they interpreted information a little more logically and more appropriated to the conditions then. And new meanings were given to the concepts of most of the words, including yajna and karma itself. And that's a more important issue as far as we are concerned. But that's something that we will come to a little later. Um, According to Purva Mimamsa, the rituals specified in the Brahman sections are more fruitful than the mantras in the Samhita. We say that actions are one action is far more important than 100 words, and that's exactly what it is. So they say it is the action that is specified in the in the Brahman section of the of the Vedas is more important. And so the later thought processes and uh, intellectual developments that are specified in the Upanishads are not more important than the actions that are actually taking place. That's what the Purva Mimamsakars or the founders of Purva Mimamsa talked of. So naturally, there was a difference of opinion between them and the Vedantins or the Uttar Mimamsakars. We'll go into that also sometime as we proceed along. There's one more major issue. If you perform a karma, there has to be a result. Every action has to have a reaction or a result. Every action is result oriented, even today, according to science. So every yajna activity bears fruit. This was believed, and this was also believed right from the time of the Vedas or even prior to that. The fact is that the fruit could be either immediate or later on, and later on could even mean the next life. Then, how do you know about it? There are two factors again involved in this. One, that even gods can't escape from this routine. So it is the karma which is based on the words, which is more important. So according to the Purva Mimamsa, gods, deities as such, are inferior to karma. There is no need for gods as a creator is one of the aspects specified by the Purva Mimamsakas. If the karma phala, which is the fruits of the karma, are not immediately obtained but have to bear fruit, then they must be stored. And this is what is termed in Purva Mimamsa as adrushta, unseen, or a concept that I discussed long back, which is known as apurva. Apurva, one that did not exist before your actions. And this concept introduced by the Purva Mimamsa is one of the major concepts that was contributed by the Purva Mimamsa. Of course, it is believed that it is Prabhakar Mishra who introduced this in great detail, but we'll come to that again. Uh, Purva Mimamsa then establishes proper ritual methodology. It gives details of the variety of yajnas, Rajasuya yajna and other yajnas, the processes in the various yajnas, who have the authority to perform these yajnas, who are the ones who are capable. If you don't have certain aspects required for a particular yajna, what are the replacements that are possible? If you're doing something wrong in this particular process, what is the compensation that you must take for, or what is the punishment that you must undertake? uh, what are the tools and the implements that are used in the various yajnas? How are they to be handled? What are the ways in which gods are to be invoked, and what are the sacrifices to be made? What are the ways in which the placements are to be made? All this has been discussed in detail in various sections, but their exact interpretation and logical interpretation has been clarified wherever there was a doubt by the Purva Mimamsa Sutra. And that is its importance. The science of proper verbal usage in Sanskrit, of course, was developed as a part of Purva Mimamsa so that no mistakes are made. Some of these were taken care of in the um, Vedangas. But they were more of individual words, a combination of words and their various interpretations more logically were discussed out in the Purva Mimamsa. In fact, their word interpretations are still used and even then were used in Sanskrit literature regularly because that was the reference as to how to exactly use words. The roots of many of the normal Hindu behavior patterns that we have today are found in the Purva Mimamsa. The 16 sanskars, the caste breakup as to why castes are to be formed, the runas, the obligations, are all explained in the Purva Mimamsa. Sanskars are 16 there were more also, but 16 transition points in the life of an individual. What are they? Which are the ones? What are the rituals to be carried out? What is expected out of all this? Is all clarified, interpreted correctly through Purva Mimamsa. If all this information has to come about, then naturally this is going to be a very large volume of information. And so, Purva Mimamsa as a darshan is the largest of the darshans that is talked of. At the core lies the original idea put forward by all of them, that is blissful living based on Vedas, because that was the reference at that time. And the word that was used, Satchitanand, permanent, internal, blissful thought. And that is the core of all Hindu way of thinking, even today. Be happy with what is there around you. And that's what Purva Mimamsa started off with. There are many more aspects dealing with this. We'll come to them as time proceeds. And I'll break them down into smaller bits, coming down to um, what are the texts about, and what are the core ideas and why a darshan itself. And then each of these separate parts, the 16 samskaras and the runas and so forth. If you have liked whatever I have said, please pass on this information to your friends. Like and subscribe to this channel so that I'll be able to pass on more information to you. And if you have any doubts, please communicate and let me know if there are any queries. Uh, we need to talk again, extending our ideas on Purva Mimamsa and many more issues too. Till we meet, Namaskar.